Order up.
Ay. What the hell is this?
I call it true bluefin sauté. It's elephant tuna, seared asparagus, and a sweet soy reduction.
Hello friends, welcome back to the Normie Review, where
Friends, welcome back to the Normie Review, where you get to see properties through the eyes of someone who is less than familiar with the source material. Now, I have seen the entire season of One Piece live action on Netflix, and I can tell you I absolutely have a favorite character, but I'm not going to tell you until later in the video. You got to keep watching. It's a little retention hack for you up-and-coming video creators. All right, so today we're going to be making something as well, so stick around. This is pro YouTube stuff. Hit the like button. Let's jump in with something that I can't stop thinking about, and that is the show structure. As I was hoping, the final 4 episodes followed the episode pair format. Episode 5 and 6 take us to the Baratier, introducing new conflicts, resolving them, and leaving the restaurant. Episode 7 and 8 enter Arlong Park and Cocoa Village, introduce new conflicts, resolve them, and leave the area and the East Blue. I'm a little surprised that Netflix didn't follow the pattern of Amazon and Disney by doing a weekly drop of like 1 or 2 episodes. The way the show is built, it would have been perfect for a release schedule like this. Each episode tells its own small story while moving the season and character development along, so it would have been a great weekly drop, even in individual episodes. Each pair has an excellent middle point. Episodes 1 and 2 are a pair, telling Luffy's backstory, and while episode 1 is pretty self-contained, we want to find out more about Luffy, and the intro for Buggy is great. Now, episode 3 and 4 are a pair. 3 ends with us finding out that the manor is staffed by pirates, and 2 of the crew are out of commission. Great rising action and cliffhanger ending. Episodes 5 and 6 are a pair. Episode 5 ending with Zoro being possibly dead, the crew stuck at the Baratier, not sure if he's going to make it, whether Sanji is joining them, or if Garp will find them there. Lastly, the 7 and 8 pair has episode 7 ending with Cocoa Village being in flames, and the crew getting back together ready for the final confrontation.
Don't know you. Look like you're about to do something stupid. I'm in.
I love Bad Boys 2, and I don't care how bad it is. What's also nice about this episode pairing system is that you don't need to binge the whole season at once. I'm not a big fan of the way streaming has changed episode and season structures, and most shows now feel like a 6 or 8 hour long movie with random cuts in the middle. One Piece is clearly deliberate in how it tells the story, and you're certainly able to watch 1 episode at a time, but you're gonna want to finish each pair. And while that is a 2-hour time commitment, it's better than binging an entire season in one day. Or worse, never starting a show because you're scared you'll just binge the whole thing and you don't want to commit. So you've got this amazing organization where each episode has its own arc, each pair of episodes has their own arc, and the entire season has a good arc. The season also makes excellent use of symmetry. We started and ended the season with Alvida. Episodes 3 and 4 have the strongest symmetry, with the crew arriving on Syrup Island with no boat, meeting Usopp, who leads them to the manor where we meet Kaya and her staff, ending with the revelation that the butler is evil. Episode 4 picks up here, and we see the climax of the fight with Kuro and his crew resolving that plot. That leads to the Straw Hats getting a boat, resolving that, and they take on Usopp, resolving his intro. Those 2 episodes are amazing storytelling. We have Kobe and Helmeppo being introduced in episode 1 as unseasoned recruits who each want to be great but don't know how. They don't have a teacher. The season grows their relationship, and episode 8 ends with them standing up for what's right, being taken under Garp's wing. I can't get enough of the symmetry moments and the show structure. Once you start seeing it, it's everywhere in the show, and it not only reflects the care they put into the production, but it makes the show that much better even if you aren't paying attention to it.
It's beautiful. I've looked at this for 5 hours now.
I'm also excited to see more character growth going forward, especially from Nami and Usopp, who got a good start but didn't get as much time to develop. Usopp isn't even really sure what his dream is at the end, just to be a pirate warrior. Everyone is making vows and he sounds like he's winging it, which is a bit sad given that everyone else's dreams are what fuel the story. He's bordering between sympathetic and plain pathetic right now, and I hope they give him something moving forward. I was very happy to see him get a heroic moment against the Fishman, but sadly nobody saw it. It was nice to see him realize his tails were getting away from him at the post-fight celebration in Cocoa Village, and equally nice to see Captain Luffy stand up for him. Nami was the big twist, so that had to be a little underdeveloped until the end, but that's what you get. By then, so many things were happening, however, that she didn't get much time for growth. Until we got her backstory, she was the edgy one, which I generally dislike, compared to rose-colored boy Luffy and the other crew, who are generally optimistic. Her character was an even starker contrast. We get it. you're the cool loner and you can't let anyone in, blah, blah, blah. It ain't fun. We find out in episodes 5 and 6 that it really is a front, which was good. We were running out of time. I was getting a bit tired of her bit. It was a solid build-up with Zorro bringing her out of her shell. In the bar in episode 5, he tries to decode her facade and guess things about her, but she tells him his ignorance. But the next episode, she tells him, all I wanted were friends, but I couldn't ever have them. Zorro was a good character to bring her out, since he also is an edgy lone warrior, but he's already taken to Luffy. I think they set her up for a good arc going forward, and I can't wait to see it take shape. Zorro and Luffy got the most chance to shine in the season, and I love where they ended up. Luffy retains his optimism, but by the end of the season, it's matured from the naive optimism he started out with. In the first half of the season, things just kind of go his way, but the second half really tests him and his leadership. It's not enough to just be happy and optimistic and support people's dreams. He learns that hard decisions have to be made. Sometimes you have to really fight for your friends. Seeing Zorro nearly die, chasing after Nami even when she tried to push him away, those were big moments for his character. Likewise, Zorro grows well into his first mate position. At first, we meet a lone, edgy warrior with a little soft side, but by the end, he realizes that he's part of a team now and has to simultaneously help lead the crew while supporting the captain's leadership. Lastly, we've got Sanji, who is just a genuinely good guy, and I love that. I'm not sure if the manga makes him out to be a ladies' man or slightly douchey, hitting on everyone, but in the show, he just comes off as a great person who is cognizant of the people around him and their feelings. He's well aware of the sacrifices Zeph made for him, and while they bicker like an old married couple or father and son, Sanji has already learned to pay it forward to others and use food and compliments to diffuse most situations. Once Zeph is gone, Zorro takes the place of playful banter partner, and I can see me loving their relationship as we go forward. The most emotional moment in the show was him leaving the Baratier and calling out his thanks to Zeph. Guys, that one hit hard. I can't say his character had a huge arc beside leaving the Baratier, but I'm fine with it. I like him just as he is. Now, for the question that sadly must be asked about every production these days.
Is it cake?
Is it woke? This is an interesting question, and my answer here is no. There are a few problems with woke, and the first is that it's nearly meaningless now from overuse, and the big problem is that its definition is mostly based on the intention of the writer or producer. Take She-Hulk, which I use a lot because it was just so very obvious. Jessica Gao set out to write feminism and really misandry into every shot of that show. People don't call it woke because it stars a woman. They call it that because of its obvious social political messaging that aims to fix some kind of wrong in the world, according to Jessica. And it tries to achieve this goal by having straw males who are stand-ins for how Gao sees men in general. She thought she was being terribly clever by trolling the trolls because she's clearly chronically online and sees 4chan users everywhere she goes. So She-Hulk's coworker telling her to smile more, or her friend giving her that speech about how she has to work harder than the men and doesn't get rewarded. They're all writing symptoms of how Jessica sees modern day America. What I'm assuming makes people cry woke about One Piece are the references to Arlong being a former slave or the fish people being slaves at some point. This is where the word woke gets murky. Just because slavery gets mentioned, it's not a commentary on American slavery, and it isn't automatically a virtue signal. That's one of the hallmarks of wokeness, shallow virtue signaling. But I didn't get the sense that One Piece was going for this. Slavery has been happening all around the world throughout history, so a character having it in their backstory isn't a comment on America and systemic racism. If the Netflix One Piece was trying to make such a comment, they failed, because Arlong is not sympathetic in any way, and we quickly find out that he enslaved Nami after capturing her village. Something I find funny quite often is when people celebrate some kind of imbalance that disfavors men or white people, who we all know are oppressors and always have been. When they celebrate those groups losing in some way, it just shows they don't care about equality. They want revenge. And if they had historically been the ones in power, they themselves would gleefully be the oppressors. This is exactly what we see with Arlong, and he is an interesting character because of his complexity. You might take him as a commentary on how systemic racism turns people into criminals, but you might also take him as a commentary on how people are inherently corrupt and will latch on to whatever excuse they need to justify their actions, be it ancestral oppression or manifest destiny or whatever. The character is political, but that doesn't mean woke. It's important to tell the difference. It's impossible to get entirely away from politics, really, but the question is whether a thing takes an interesting view of it, like Spider-Punk Hobie from Across the Spider-Verse, or if a thing is a blunt message meant to bludgeon the audience with the writer's narrow viewpoint. Another issue I've seen people take with the show is Kobe's actor, Morgan Davies, formerly Morgana. Again, this one is tricky, and I look at the showrunners. Did they proudly broadcast their inclusivity of a trans person the way Disney did for the upcoming Ironheart show? Not that I saw. And Kobe wasn't referred to as a they or them or whatever. Maybe you can call it an Overton window thing, but the show didn't put it in my face, and neither did the showrunners, so I don't count that as signaling. Or maybe I'm just willing to overlook some things because the show is just so good, unlike the aforementioned She-Hulk, which was just terrible television. So I couldn't help but see the virtue signaling on top of the terrible writing and CGI. What do you think? Is One Piece woke? This being an adaptation of a Japanese manga, it also raises interesting questions about wokeness as an American concept. In the 2020s, we are here hyper-focused on gender stuff and systemic racism. Those are the easy things to virtue signal about right now in America, but I wonder what progressives in other countries signal about. Now, I know you had a hard time guessing, but my favorite character is Sanji. And I have recreated the true bluefin tuna with sauteed asparagus, and just for fun, some onigiri and miso, because it's delicious. Why wouldn't you make that? I wish I had some kitchen help, though, because this is a lot, that's a lot. This is kind of a whole thing. Anyway, dig in time. This asparagus is
Crispy.
So I think I've made it pretty clear that I thoroughly enjoyed this show. But what didn't work? Very little. Honestly, this is a well put together show. But two things did stand out to me quite a bit. The Grand Line map and other maps seem useless. This is a problem because the Grand Line map drives most of the action for the season. We're told by numerous people about how the world is divided into quadrants, and there is a large landmass running down the center, and the Grand Line circling the globe. This seems to be common knowledge. So why do we need a map to the Grand Line? Why aren't other pirates making a map? Nami's village has a book of maps, and it isn't even well guarded. So obviously cartographers have made maps. Arlong only has one copy of each map in his main building, and they are all hanging up. Maybe it's explained better in the manga, but the show feels inconsistent about the importance of maps, and it feels silly that there is one important map that is in a safe under Morgan's desk. At one point, I think a character mentions that the map contains marine-based locations, but again, this seems like an obvious thing that passing pirates could sort out. It's not the worst plot device, but it does feel pretty flimsy at times. The second thing did bother me more, and that is the devil fruit magic system doesn't always follow the rules. My wife and I like fantasy books, and one of the things that separates good fantasy from bad is a good magic system. You have to establish rules and abide by those rules. In the second episode, we get the explanation about the curse of devil fruit and seawater, and Buggy puts Luffy in a tank of seawater, so we get the effect demonstrated. However, when the tank breaks in front of Buggy and he gets splashed with it, it doesn't affect him. Perhaps this is just because he got splashed instead of submerged, except later in episode 6, Luffy gets splashed by Arlong and is instantly weakened. We also have characters whose powers haven't been explained. How does Mihawk have superhuman reflexes and strength? How does Garp have superhuman reflexes and strength? Are these guys empowered by Devil Fruit? Is there some other magic system at work? The show either breaks its own rules or it just doesn't spend enough time establishing the rules. Either way, it's kind of a problem. Those really were the only things bothering me. I enjoyed the pacing, character development, the general plot. This show is a big win for me, a normie, and I think you other normies are going to enjoy it also. It wraps up great, too, and it has me extremely excited for Season 2, which is now officially greenlit. Finally, what does this mean for the future of anime live action? As good as this show was, I'm not sold that it's like a game changer. A lot of things came together for this. The creator, Eiichiro Oda, was heavily involved and kept strict reins on the project, so we didn't see Netflix doing any of their usual messaging. This is also a massive series that casuals like me are intimidated by. My commenters tell me that each episode of the live action condensed a huge amount of manga in order to make the story digestible for us normies. I think we're going to see the upcoming Avatar: Last Airbender remind us that this One Piece success is sadly sadly an outlier. That original Avatar animation is only 3 seasons, so it doesn't need a condensed live action, and it doesn't have the original writers attached to the project to keep things focused. Don't be surprised when Katara kisses Toph or more, and there's a literal earth-shaking orgasm or something to drive the point home. I don't expect any less from Netflix. But now I want your thoughts. How did you feel about One Piece, either as a normie or a One Piece fan? Do you think the success of the show is a turning point for anime live action? I look forward to reading your thoughts, and I appreciate you watching. See you next time.